Yeah, we gotta move. Stop. So we should stop. So this right here is strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. Wow. Right? Hey, no judgment, no judgment. I'm not.
Yeah, I strongly disagree. I was whooped. I got everything thrown at me. Not that I'm gonna repeat that, but as a parent and reading like books and stuff, I realized that kids learn through three like paradigms. One is repetition, second is consequences, and the third is just an example, right? And I think you've got to go through that cycle of example, consequences, repetition. And I'm not going to, whether my kid is running down the street, they're going to feel pain and the consequences of their actions because perhaps that is the learning modality that works for them. So I'm not taking that off the table. Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't believe in beating your children at all, and I definitely will never take a whooping off the table. I think that, like we said, there's consequences. If I tell you something, don't do that, and I tell you why, and I tell you don't do that, and I say, then I tell you not to do that, and then you keep doing it, and you're gonna get a whooping. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel. And it's not even a whooping. Like I didn't get a lot of whoopings when I was a kid. I was a very sensitive kid where you just had to look at me a certain way or like even raise your voice a little bit and I'm in tears apologizing and like that's the type of child I was. But my brother on the other hand was not. Like he needed a whooping. And so I think that if you spare the rod, you will spoil your child. And I think that there are children who don't need whoopings, but there are some children who do, and I will never take it off the table.
Yeah, I mean, this ties into the patience piece, I think, for me. If my child needs to be corrected, I can give him the dad eyes, and he'll start crying. Because it's such a vast difference from when he's doing right, and he's receiving love, and he's receiving positive praise. So it's a spectrum, and again, I got my ass kicked. by my dad, and I could look back and be like, it's just because you were out of patience and you couldn't self-medicate and you had all of this angst. You would have done it a different way if you could. It's a wide spectrum, and for some folks, if they look and they say there's nothing else that I can do to bring you from normal down to this place, right? But I think with more love, withholding that and saying, I'm disappointed. If I told my son I was disappointed in him, I might ruin his, so I don't need to hit my child. I'm lucky that I guess I don't need to strike my child, nor will I.
Yeah, so corporal punishment, not into it. As many other people have said, I got my ass beat. And I feel like a lot of the times when that was happening, especially for my mom, it was because she resented her parents for pushing her into a marriage with my dad. She didn't feel fulfilled and she didn't have patience. So in that regard, I guess because that's my perspective on corporal punishment, I would say that there are many other ways in which you can resolve issues with children. This person over here was saying, like, explaining to your kids why it's important to do the things that they need to do, as opposed to just telling them that this is what you have to do. And like you said, there are other ways that you can be authoritative and that you can show your kids, like, hey, this is what you did wrong, this is the consequence for it, but it doesn't always have to be a physical consequence. Maybe there's something your kid really likes, like affection, and you maybe look at them away, then they don't feel like they can have a hug now, they don't feel warm or welcome or invited. Or maybe you make them do hard work, maybe you give them like a labor-intensive task to do in order to show them that this is this is what the consequence of whatever the action is that you've done. And then I also remember when I was 12, I got a whooping from my father. It was the first one ever, because my mom mostly had been doing the punishment because I was with my mom. And I remember I was doing poorly in my math class. I was in the 7th grade, I want to say. And I decided, like, okay, well, if I mess up, I'll be met with coldness. And so I didn't feel safe to tell my parents when I was struggling with anything. I just decided I had to figure it out, and that definitely I definitely have seen that happen over and over again, where I'm like, I don't want anybody's external help. I have to figure it out by myself because that's the way that it is. So I think corporal punishment can be damaging. It can be traumatizing, and I think we should be, out without the corporal punishment.
Hi everyone. I'm here because I think I just simply think about when I was whipped and if that really made a difference for me, if that really changed, if that really improved me, or was it really necessary? And when I sit and think about that, I'm just like, it wasn't, because who's to say, let's say I like pain. Then I'm like, okay, well then I don't really care about the whipping, because I can take this, and so I can, it doesn't deter me from doing anything. And so for me, it's not something I would want to pass on, because I even just think about how I felt after I would get a whipping. I didn't feel good, and that's not a feeling I would want to pass on to somebody or be the reason why somebody feels that way. And so for that, I think I'm on a journey of trying to figure out what are different ways and how can I have different conversations with my kids to be. So if there is something that I want them to understand and learn, I can communicate that with them as opposed to inflicting pain, because pain doesn't really do anything, at least in my opinion.
So totally what you said resonated with me, and I wanted to add, my dad gave me a whooping in the 7th grade because I was doing poorly in math. My performance in math did not improve because of the whooping. Maybe a tutor would have helped. Yeah, I don't know. I think it doesn't resolve issues, but.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I agree that it doesn't necessarily get the results. If I had a chart of my family and who got the most whoopings and who had the best outcomes, I feel like there would be no correlation at all. It would be completely all over the place. You try to draw a line. And I think, so that's one piece. I also remember when I was younger, getting to a point where I really, me and my cousins would talk about this, not crying when you get a whooping. And it was a whole mental thing that we would do to ready ourselves, I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction. They're not gonna see me cry. And it's just a weird dynamic to have with a parent. And then I also remember, the most memorable whooping I ever got was from my grandma, and it was it did not hurt at all. There was no physical pain, but just the fact that my grandma had gotten to that point was devastating for me. And so that all of that definitely goes together to paint a picture for me that it's really the idea that enough pain will make the lesson stick, or that enough pain will change behavior in a way that other methods won't. I don't believe that. The only reason I'm not there is because I don't have any kids yet. I have a kid on the way. And so I'm just look, this is what I believe. And I also, recognize that, I don't know. I don't know all the things yet. I don't have a kid yet. So that's why I'm here instead of that. But.
So I am kind of in between neutral and disagree, mostly based off, my personal experiences. I know myself growing up, I didn't listen all the time, and because I got whoopings, kind of did steer me a little bit, because I was like, man, if I don't go home, when I do get home, I'm going to have to deal with this. So for me, it just kind of was all right, well, it's kind of more of a guidance tool to the most part, but I do understand that it can be damaging later on in life. But I was kind of well, all my friends get whooped and we get whooped, so we stay out late enough, but we all gonna get it anyway, so you might as well make the best of it. So,
I know most of you up here, and baby on the way, just had a baby. I know your father, you said your father, right? Yeah. Parent, right? So everyone else is not parent. So I think that makes a difference when you are a parent. Makes a really big difference. I have a daughter, and we have a really good relationship. And to this day, I've only spanked her once. It was just basically 1 or 2 hits to the behind. And to this day, she will say to me, "You hit me." Right? You hit me. It made me feel a little bad, right? But I got her attention. You know, that's, but if I was on here, I think, I'm actually going to defend the people who are still in the state. Just because I think previously our parents only had certain tools and we didn't have those tools, right? We have more tools now. We have more tools, and our parents just didn't have those tools. And I'm just gonna respect them because they kept us in line. They kept us in line. I'm gonna come back to you. We're gonna go to Oscar.